I think one of the most important choices a person can make is the choice to investigate, the choice to seek more and better information, the choice to look beyond the face value of a newspaper headline or a politician's persuasive wording, to ask more from charismatic leaders than promises and facile explanations, to go to the source and ask about what's being said and why, to read the study and not just the article about the study. The choice to use the freedom that we enjoy in our lives to educate ourselves on what's happening in the world. And not just a little bit from one or two sources, but a lot from a plethora of sources, ideally with differing biases. Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Andy Fellows and I make videos on destructive cults, damaging norms and just generally bad ideas. If you like the video you're about to watch and you want to subscribe to the channel, make sure that you hit the little bell thing when you do so that you're notified whenever I put out a new video. So agendas are rife, and I know I've talked about conspiracy theories a lot lately, and this isn't one of them. I mean, think about it. We all want things, right? But when a person gains some power, be it through privilege, hard work, dirty work, or simply through being part of the lucky sperm club, what they want can start to encroach on what you want, on what each of us wants. And some of those people are capable of influencing large groups of people. Be it through the impact of their charisma alone or through the tendrils of our society that a person can get access to if they're so inclined. These people tend to rely on quite a prevalent flaw in human thinking. And it seems possible to me that we've fallen for the comfort of this flawed way of thinking for about as long as we've been tribal creatures, which is to say, a long time. It seems possible to me that in the building of our in-groups and out-groups, we may have forgotten to be honest with ourselves. And it seems possible to me that even today, in drawing hard lines in the sand between us and them, we fall into the trap of demonizing the others and canonizing ourselves. This flaw that I'm talking about, this mistake that we all make, is black and white thinking. In Escaping the Rabbit Hole, Mick West talks about how politics is polarizing because politicians want it to be. And that makes sense, right? I mean, the more you make it a no-brainer for one person to choose your party over another, the easier it is for someone to stick to their guns when they say, I support this party, I support this politician. The more likely people are going to stay put in their political leanings. And the more clear-cut they make an issue seem, the less of a risk there is for a supporter to slip away from one person into another's camp. And in cults, the same is true. If a leader makes everyone outside the group seem lesser or bad, then people inside the group are going to want to leave less. Leaving the group becomes less desirable. That's a soft view, of course. I mean, to say that this gets really intense in cults is an understatement. All you need to do is look up Heaven's Gate to see how much of their narrative was built out of this ideal of what's pure. And that implies some impurity in those who don't follow their map of reality, and they're not the only ones who saw things this way. Too many groups believe in similar. The demand for purity, the deification of a leader or a map of reality, the demonization of an out-group member, and the dispensing of existence. These are all examples of how black and white thinking permeates the cult mentality. I try to be on guard for black and white thinking in my own life, and I remember Telltale saying something like, if you lose nuance, then that opens the door to extremism, and I think that's true. And I keep coming back to this thought that if you lay out how cults work, so much of it is turning human nature against itself. We have this predisposition towards tribalism and this in-group, out-group, canonization, demonization. We flock to charismatic leaders whether or not they have a concrete ideology or just a convincing founding lie. We're biased towards believing what fits into our worldview, our personal experience, and our version of common sense. And when control gets clamped down by these charismatic leaders in our little tribes, then the fact that we're creatures of habit goes against us. We are brilliant at adjusting, us humans, and you put us in a toxic environment with no way out and we'll get used to it. Especially so, I would say, in a society where we've become accustomed to what could be termed a threat-free lifestyle. Yet in this relatively safe life, in a bubble that seems to be popping for most of us at the moment, despite the frantic will of those people who are unwilling to face facts, there's this pervasive sense that things happen elsewhere. Bad things happen elsewhere. Threats happen elsewhere. They happen to other people in other countries. Never here, never me. Following that, cults are these faraway things, and I could never end up in a cult, and politicians are all liars, and I know not to trust them, and obviously the media are biased, but I know how to read between the lines. And then the doorbell rings and you look through your blinds and you see ties and blazers, and then the election rolls around and there are no good choices. And then you read a headline and you get so angry that you miss the might and possibly and could in the copy that's put there specifically so that it's clear to those who are looking hard enough that the headline wasn't supposed to be a lie, just an eye-catching, emotion-stirring ploy for your attention. One of the most important choices a person can make is the choice to investigate. The choice to seek more and better information. The choice to cross-reference, even from opposing, biased sources. The choice to demand more from leaders than frilly words and pretty promises and facile answers. I think this matters because when you let people off too easily, you so often only get half of the picture. When an unsafe leader tells you that they have magic powers and you don't demand a demonstration under controlled conditions. When a politician tells you that they'll do something but they fail to lay out a plan as to how. When a newspaper tells you what an event means for you and your life and you don't cross-reference and you don't do more research, then you're depriving yourself of vital information, vital nuance. Black and white is easy, natural even, I would say. It's all too easy to see people that disagree with you as being mentally ill or fooled or less intelligent in some way. It's all too easy to explain away opposing views and information that contradicts your worldview without doing a proper investigation into it. It's all too easy to get angry. It's all too easy to let your anger fuel the way that you impact the people and the world around you. But that rarely works out well. What it comes down to, I think, is nuance. And I think nuance is important because it's hard to stay angry when you realize that things aren't quite as simple as you thought they were. How can you be angry at a cult member when you see that it wasn't an informed decision that landed them there? How can you stay angry at their preaching when you realize that they've been subjected to a process, the result of which is that they now believe that they have to preach, they have to do that, so that they can save your soul and theirs. A process designed to convince them as such. And this extends into politics and news too, I think. When a politician or a newspaper says something and it makes you angry, you've got to wonder if they intended that. You've got to wonder what they're banking on you doing and saying. I mean, let's not forget Cambridge Analytica and the persuadables. In seeking more and better and detailed information, you can, I think, 8 if not 9 times out of 10, avoid playing into the hands of someone who is banking on an emotional response from you. Now, obviously, there are times when anger is going to be a entirely justified emotion. But for me, I'm not keen on it becoming a currency in my life. I'm not exchanging minutes of my day, hours of my week, years of my life for anger, for disillusionment, for hatred. And in my experience, if, where appropriate, I can let kindness take the wheel instead of anger, then black and white thinking gives way to insight and to compassion. And when times are tough, solutions to hard problems. In terms of self-preservation, there's an appeal to black and white thinking, but I know if I'm not protecting against it in my own life, then I will fall prey to polarizing headlines. I'll fall into the trap of thinking that people that see the world differently from me have something wrong with them. I'll make the mistake of demonizing the other side and canonizing my own. But life just isn't that simple. Videos like this are made possible by my wonderful patrons whose names you will see listed at the end of this video. If you like the kind of content that I'm making and you want to help support the channel, the best way to do that is through Patreon. If you like this video today and you want to see more from me, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and stick a comment below. Let me know what you thought. Now, before you go, let me just say one last thing. Please, be kind and ask good questions. And I'll see you in the next one.